Manchester Real Estate Investment Meeting. For those of you that don't know, which is probably not very many of you, but for those of you that don't know me, my name is Jake Byler. Been part of this group for quite a while. Always look forward to meeting the people and seeing what I can learn. And tonight is no exception. This is going to be a lot of fun. As most of you know as well, our meetings are primarily paid for by sponsors. Our sponsors for this year are Jeff Moeller. Jeff does some private lending. Joe Liowski, Compass Property Management. David Wolf, Principal Mortgage Group. Daniel Ash, the local realtor. And Nate Rittenhouse, Lanka Credit Union. Most of those guys are actually in the room tonight. I never quite know how to say this, but the reason we gather here, the reason Joe started this group back probably almost 10 years ago, is just simply for something to offer to the local investors, to the community, for just a place for education and connection. And I can tell you without a doubt, going to meetings like this for the last probably 12 years for me is probably one of the single most significant, important things that I've done. So I just say that to say thanks for coming out. Thanks for being a part of the group. And no matter where you're at in your investing journey, if you have bought hundreds of houses, which some people in here probably have, or if you're looking for your first one, it's a good group to be in. Before we get to the main part of the evening tonight, if you were at our meeting last month, you might remember at the end I announced that Jon Kauffman is going to be here from Faith Builders. He drove between 4 and 5 hours today to get here. So Justin, not sure where you're at, but you can come on up. He is here to describe this much better than I can, but basically what this program is about is it's a way that we can redirect our tax dollars that we would normally pay to the state to Christian education. So that's my 10-second version of it. Justin's going to explain it a lot better than that in probably about 10 minutes or so. And I think it's important. I have not done this yet. I'm curious, how many of you have done that in the past? It's a good maybe 10 of you or something. I think it's pretty important because if you think about a room this size, a lot of us pay a lot of taxes. The federal tax is a little bit easier to offset as a real estate investor, but the state tax is a bit of a tough one. So if we could redirect those funds into Christian education, to me that's pretty exciting. So I'm going to let Justin tell us a bit more about how we can do that.
Well, good evening. Yeah. And Jake actually gave a pretty good summary of what this is. The 10-minute version might make you more confused. I hope not. But so I'll get started here. I work at Faith Builders Educational Programs. This is up in Crawford County, Pennsylvania. So about an hour south of Erie. This morning was this. We had lake effect snow overnight. It was our first snow of the year. So it was very beautiful, but very wet and muddy afterwards. So the Pennsylvania Educational Improvement Tax Credit Program is tax credits given to you if you give a contribution to a K through 12 scholarship organization. In 2002, the budget this was started, and the Pennsylvania budget for it was about $20 million, and in 2022, which I don't have 2023 numbers yet because the Pennsylvania budget for this little piece isn't fully established, but in 2022 it was $263 million, so a huge increase. And the basic idea of the program is that a 2-year commitment to contribute toward a scholarship organization awards 90% income tax credits for contributions. So just an example here. This isn't quite shown up like I thought it would, but your Pennsylvania tax liability, say it's $9,000. I'm going to use that because it's an easy number. If you contribute $10,000 to a scholarship organization, then you receive 90% as tax credits, which is $9,000. and you owe nothing in Pennsylvania income tax then. So you spent 1,000 to give 10,000. And then we as a scholarship organization keep 5%. And the school of your choice, the school that you can choose, receives 95% or 9,500 in the case of a $10,000 contribution in the form of tuition assistance for students. So I'll just walk you through the process a little bit of what it looks like in the normal process. So a business applies to the state of Pennsylvania, and then they get approved. This happens they apply in May and June and get approved in usually around September. And we come in, because the business just gives the money straight to us, we issue a receipt to the state of Pennsylvania, and then the money just keeps flowing down through the schools to the students. But this application process for businesses has been somewhat cumbersome. Individuals couldn't contribute directly. And the application process is kind of tedious and really date specific, so it's kind of inflexible for businesses. And because of budget limitations, new businesses, it's a popular program in the state, so new businesses were often rejected. So introduced in 2014, 2015, the concept of a business was expanded in Pennsylvania to include a business that can just, it's called a special purpose entity, that can just exist just to pass through tax credits to contributors that want to enroll in this business. What this means is that, say in our case, Faith Builders operates 16 businesses now that are just existing to enroll people into the businesses that want to contribute. We do the work of applying to the state and of working with the state to get those credits. And individuals just jump in, contribute, and get tax credits at the end of the year. The same amount of tax credits. We have currently right around 560 members, and those businesses net zero. 100% of contributions flow through to the scholarship organization, which then passes 95% of the contributions on to schools. So same process, but just taking that, what used to be the business and still is a business, but it's a business that houses anyone who wants to contribute, really. So it really opens the door up wide for individuals. Yeah, one of the benefits is that you just work with a private business rather than working with the state. And hopefully, if you work with us, you'll find us to be workable. Not that you won't ever find the state to be workable, but hopefully we are more so. The admittance is based on wait list, not randomly, which is how the state works. And due to kind of a complicated reason in the filing process for these credits, we expect in the next several years to have a good amount of tax credits available through the next several years at least. And it simplifies the tax filing process also, as compared to contributing with a direct business application to the state. We have a couple requirements for our SPEs. These businesses, we ask for a minimum of $3,000 contribution. What that means is that if you're, with a $3,000 contribution, you get $2,700 in tax credits, 90%. And you need to be making around, with the flat rate, 3.07% in Pennsylvania income tax. That that there is, that means you need to be making about 88,000 or more to use all the credits that would become available to you. So 88,000 taxable income, you can make the minimum $3,000 contribution. We asked for a 2-year commitment just because our businesses also make a 2-year commitment to the state. You must be an employee, an owner, or a stockholder of a registered business in Pennsylvania to contribute. If your only income is from a non-registered sole proprietorship, that means if your only income is from a business that doesn't file its own tax returns but is just filed on your personal ones, you can talk to me. It's a little more complicated, but things can be worked out. And the application process is pretty simple. I'll have some paper applications in the back, as well as ways you can sign up online. You can also scan that code if you can do it from here, and it'll pull you right up to an online application process as well. But I'll have plenty of those in the back as well that you can pick up and look through. And so if you're interested, I'd be happy to talk to you. I'm going to stay around some after the meeting, and so I'll be in the back at the table. You're welcome to come back and talk to me, ask me any questions. I'll open it up for a little bit. Is there any pressing questions? Yes.
What's the process?
Mm-hmm.
Which means we took.
Yeah. So the child, I didn't talk about that much. I usually talk more about that when I talk to schools. But on that process, it does need to be that the child is in a school. So in the case of, say, a homeschool setting, it wouldn't quite work.
He was in the.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so if a child is in a private school, we work with the school. The school usually sends out applications to all the families, and the families can apply for the scholarship for tuition assistance. We have about 160 schools, I think, that we work with right now across Pennsylvania, and we're happy to talk to new schools too if there's people who want to contribute to someone not on our list. So, yes?
Can the $10,000, can they contribute? It's not charitable.
So you already get credit for the 90%, so that's not considered something that you can get charitable contribution for. But the 10% that you don't get credit for is actually recognizable as a federal charitable contribution. So you'll get more than 90% credit for it if you file it as a charitable contribution as well. Yeah, it's not a double dip option, but please don't try that. All right, well, thank you for your attention, and I look forward to the rest of the meeting.
Thanks a lot, Justin. Appreciate that. Like he said, he'll be sticking around for the evening. He's staying in the area overnight, driving back tomorrow. But yeah, he literally drove down from northwestern PA today to come and share with us tonight. John Lapp, any follow-up comments? John's a CPA. John was actually my connection to Justin, and just ask you if he has a couple comments to follow up here.
Yeah, I made a couple of notes as Justin was speaking. One of the things is I really think it's a good program, and you guys don't just have to use it yourself, but if you have friends or neighbors, let them know about the program. Feel free to spread the word. And if I'm not mistaken, it can only offset taxable income, Justin. Is that right? If you contribute more than what's needed, then that will not carry over to a future year. It will not offset anything. But that amount can be written off on a Schedule A as itemized deductions. Any amount that's not used as a credit can be used as an itemized deduction. I used the program last year. It's a very easy program to use. So it's 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and all they do is send out the K-1. So don't be afraid to use their program. It's totally different from what it was a couple years ago. They just made it so much easier. And then the last comment, I think most of you, when you do sign up, you want to sign up as individuals and not as business. I think in very rare cases it would be signed up as businesses, but for the most part, most of the tax flows through to the personal tax return, and therefore it would be signed up as individuals.
Thank you, John. I'm probably not the only one that was sitting here just trying to follow what he's saying. And Justin, you did a great job of explaining it. It's just some of us are slow to catch on to this stuff, and it's like, man, it sounds complicated, but I'm convinced it's not that hard if we have the right guidance, and I think it's very worthwhile. Daryl, you can come on up here. I'm going to get Daryl to officially introduce our speaker for tonight because he knows him a lot better than I do. I would love to make a couple comments about this dog boarding thing, but I don't even know where to start. I'm just fascinated by it. And most of you are probably never going to be in the dog boarding business. I don't think I'm going to be. But I love little niches like this, and I think what we're going to hear tonight is much more broad than the specific industry. And while I have Daryl up here, a little quick note on Daryl. I've known Daryl for probably 12, 13 years.
That was when my therapy started.
And if you know Daryl, or if you're looking at him now, you know that he often kind of has this smirk and this twinkle in his eye that makes you wonder if he knows something that you don't. I'm still trying to figure that out. But probably 10, 12 years ago, I walked into a real estate meeting, and I still clearly remember I saw Daryl coming in the door, and he's got that same twinkle in his eye and that smirk, and I'm like, I commented on the fact that it's pretty predictable. Like you look like you're having fun, you're always excited. And I don't remember word for word your reply, but it was something like this. You probably thanked me for the comment, and you said, but based on how my day went, like that's not necessarily a reflection of how my day went today, but I learned a long time ago it's a choice. And I always appreciate that about you. So I'm going to let you introduce this dog boarding guy for tonight, and we'll go from there.
Thanks, Jake. Yeah, I want to welcome those watching online. Delighted to have you here. I hope you take some notes tonight. How many understand a short pencil is better than a long memory? Yeah, go back and reflect on things and digest it. Always remain a curious learner is what I was taught. I just like to take notes, and good to remember. This guy I'm going to be introducing, John's a guy worth listening to. I've heard it said if you want to really give a high compliment to someone, tell them, encourage, say something to the effect that they stretch your thinking. John stretches my thinking. And any of you that have been around him very long, you'll probably hear something that he's quoting from a book he just read that day or some time ago, and he'll make a statement from Jim Rohn. He said, "Don't wish it was easier. Wish you were better." And he's a guy that lives that out. He's got an enthusiasm for life. It's contagious. He just got back 3:30 this morning from being down in Florida hunting alligators. So he's fired up. So help me welcome Jon Rodriquez. Bring him up.
Can you hear me? Oh, let me turn this. Go ahead, take this one. All right, thank you guys. Can everyone hear me all right? Are we good to go with sound? Okay, wonderful. All right, well, I guess I'll start off first with my story here. So pet boarding, this is our brand, Goldenwood. I'll get into kind of how that all came about and everything. But you hear the last name Rodriguez, and you might not think that person is from Lancaster County, but I grew up in the Welsh Mountain. It's actually where I grew up till I was 11. And the way Rodriguez gets into the Fisher book, I can explain that. So a lot of you know what the Fisher book is. And you wouldn't think I'd be in there with this last name. But my grandpa actually came over from Puerto Rico on a work visa to pick tomatoes on an Amish farm in Honeybrook. And he got with the farmer's daughter and made my dad. So that's how Rodriguez got into the Fisher book. So then my dad married a white Mennonite lady and made me, so I'm 25% Puerto Rican, so I like to say I'm Puerto Rican. So anyways, that's how the last name Rodriguez gets here, but I'm basically Amish and Mennonite too, so I love it. So I come from this community and absolutely love it. But how I ever ended up in the pet boarding world, I can explain that. So I guess I'll start off sharing my story with everybody. Originally from the area here, I went to high school at LMH. I actually was a dropout there. I never graduated high school there. I always loved to work. A lot of you here would be familiar with Green Dragon Farmers Market. So my parents still own the largest produce stand there in Building 6 across from Newswanger Sausage. So that's my parents, Carmelo and Karen. I grew up there as a kid, smashing boxes in the dumpster and for a nickel and all that good stuff. So I feel like that's where I learned a lot of my sales skills, dealing with a lot of different cultures and people trying to negotiate and everything. Loved that as a kid, and then, like I said, I never graduated high school. I just wanted to work. So I started working for my uncle in construction in Ephrata. He has Ocker Home Improvements. His name's Woody Ocker. Some of you here may know who he is. So that was what I call my first real job. And loved working for him, loved nailing on shingles and building additions and remodels and stuff. And in Brownstown, he actually had a 2-unit apartment there, and I'd say he's kind of what you call your mom and pop landlord. He had 2 2-unit apartments, but I wouldn't really call him like a high level, sophisticated investor or anything like that. And one day I was cleaning out an apartment, one of the worst I've seen to this day. Lady had 5 kids and moved out the day the constable was there to drag her out. We were filling a 20-yard dumpster. And I love that. It didn't bug me. So I called me weird. I was having a good day. It didn't bug me at all. I was filling the dumpster. But that's the day I really feel like the Lord gave me the revelation, or almost like the call in my life, where I was like, wow, this is amazing. If I'm looking at worst case scenario today with this 2-unit apartment, and I'm kind of having fun. I'm working for my uncle. I'm working 78 hours a week, and I want to have a dirt bike and a nice truck like all my friends have. And my parents never had money, so it was like if I was going to do this, I was going to figure out a way on my own, right? And so I kind of had that in my mind, and as I worked for him, I thought if I could just own a 2-unit apartment, I could have 2 paychecks, right? So I could have my regular paycheck coming from him, and then I could have a paycheck coming from the apartment, and then I call it making money when you're sleeping, right? So the tenant's got to put that money in your box or mail it to you, and was very excited about that idea and had no idea how I was going to do this. So when my wife and I got married, and one of my uncle's customers had a 2-unit apartment, and I was good friends with this customer, and they said they would sell it to us. So we got married and went to buy this. So this is the real, what I really want to get into some today too is, some people, we all come from different backgrounds and have different options as far as when it comes to money. And I was just having a conversation on the way here with Chase here, my friend that's along, where, what actually stops us from a lot of this stuff and achieving our dreams actually has nothing to do with money. So you look at a house and you say, how can I buy that, right? So a lot of you may have read the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad. The one dad says, I can't afford that. The other dad says, how can I afford that? Well, that is in my brain, I'd say almost every day of how can I afford that? How can we figure this out? And I feel like this was the start of it with this 2-unit where we wanted to do a first-time home buyer, right? So at the time, I think it might have been 7% down. The 2-unit was $140,000. I didn't have that money. I didn't even have 7% down for that. So it's not like I, got started and it was easy and I had money from somewhere. So I sold my truck. We had 2 kids at the time. I sold my truck. My wife and I were both working full time to have enough money to put down on this 2-unit. And that really, I would say, helped get my wife on board. A lot of my friends were, building homes or buying single-family homes. And not that there's anything wrong with that, but if you I met there, and all I knew was he was a friendly guy. I seen him every Friday at Green Dragon, and I went up to him and started talking to him there at Green Dragon, and he was like, "I'll give you 100 grand, no problem." And that was kind of the start. And then there was through our accountant, we met another friend that ended up giving us the difference. But my wife and I then were able to buy that 48 unit. That kind of, when we moved out there, so on settlement day, we moved out there to the 48 unit apartment complex. We moved into a 900 square foot apartment with our 4 children, and we're like, we're going to figure out how to run this thing. And so we both quit our jobs, drove 2.5 hours, didn't have phone numbers for anyone, had no connections out there, and we're going to figure out how to do this. And it was 6 years ago, and within a year and a half, we doubled the income on that apartment complex. And the 2 investors, we had to return them in a 5-year period. They averaged 26% return on their investment each year for 5 years with us there. So we still own that to this day. And then I started buying some different 2 units and trailers and different properties out in that area in Blair County. And then I had a friend tell me that there might be a campground coming for sale and stuff. And then it started getting a lot for just my wife and I to run. And I thought about this whole idea of business partners. So we basically started a property management company. Jon Rodriquez and Benji Rodriquez, they are brothers. And they actually moved from Lancaster County here out to Blair County with me and my wife. And we bought Seven Mountains Campground, was the first campground we bought. So as you know, Benji and Jon and I bought several campgrounds and stuff together. We bought land, multiple kennels and stuff. So that's how they kind of came into the picture. So that was 4 years ago, May 1st, 4 years ago in Chambersburg. And so the question is, how do I get how did I ever get into the kennel world here at all? And to be honest with you, I feel like my first view is just numbers, right? So a lot of you guys have you run the numbers on buying a 2 unit, a 3 unit, and you say, here's how much money's coming in, here's how much money's coming out, and here's what's left over. And so I had gave Jon Rodriquez the offer to come out, live at the apartment complex, and do all the finances and bill pay for everything, and then I'll go around and find more properties and raise the capital and stuff, and Benji will run the campgrounds. And so that's what we did, and we kind of got Jon all set up there and kind of gave him vision for moving into the apartment complex, but then my wife and I had nowhere to go. But I love the idea because I'm like, hey, I got this 48 unit running, I got someone to manage it, I don't got to be there, this is great, I'll figure out, I had myself obviously last on the list of where I'm going to go. So I was just looking for properties, running numbers, and literally I went on LoopNet and randomly found a dog boarding kennel for sale. Never knew what a dog boarding kennel was 4 years ago. Never had been in one. And most people would go to this property. It's a beautiful property. It's where I live now. There's a 4,000 square foot home on the property, 12 acres. And most people would go there with their W-2 income and say, wow, this is a beautiful property. I really want to buy this. And what I've learned just from reading books and running numbers, I didn't even go look at it initially. I said, give me all your finances, right? So I called the listing agent, and it was just a typical listing agent. It wasn't like from an investing company or anything like that. And they're like, let me see if I can get those. This isn't something they're just producing, right? And so she had to talk to the seller and see if she could even get those, if there was any, So I got the last 3 years of tax returns and profit loss, ran the numbers, and it looked like a home run real fast on said more of a story, if that makes sense. And so we decided we're going to go for it. So that's what took us to Chambersburg, again, a town we've never been in our lives, and we're going to move there. And settlement day, we're cleaning up dog poop and squeegeeing runs and figuring out how to run the place. So 4 years ago, that is my wife right there. So the lady who we bought the place from, that is her typewriter right there. And when a dog comes in the door, you'd get a stencil and you'd write the dog's name on the run card, and then you type out their feeding instructions, the owner's phone number and all that. That's just 4 years ago. She had a typewriter in there. And so we just came in saying we know nothing about kennels, show us how to run it. So we just jumped on her typewriter. Okay, I guess this must be how you run a dog kennel. Since then, as you'll see with some of the slides, we've done a lot of research, found there's a lot of software out there specifically just for the dog boarding world. And we've found some really awesome software. We're 100% cloud-based. People can take pictures with their phone of everything we need, put a credit card on file and show up, and we're 100% cloud-based now. So what is pet boarding? So a lot of you probably are familiar, obviously everyone knows what breeding dogs is, but pet boarding is just very, very different. It's the difference between birthing a child and babysitting kids for the weekend. I mean, that's kind of the difference. There's just a big difference between the two. So a lot of people look at it as like similar, like, oh, it must be like breeding dogs, selling dogs or something, and I would say it's very, very different. So people nowadays view their pets very much as their children, and as you know, a lot of pets are inside the home, not outside the home like they used to be, and people are very worried and concerned about who is taking care of my pet when I go to Florida for 2 weeks, right? So that's where pet boarding comes in. And this is a video. When you are searching for an incredible place to have your pet when you're gone, that you really would consider Goldenwood. When you arrive here, we want you to feel proud that they're using Goldenwood. They feel confident they're using Goldenwood. One thing that we have at each location is multiple acres of land. The one thing we're really trying to create is an environment where pets just thrive. Our Aliquippa location will be a little bit more affordable, a little bit more of a traditional kennel, but we just recently added a section on that's separate from the main kennel there. Everything's brand new there. At Goldenwood, we have been able to hire some amazing kennel techs, vet techs that have committed their life essentially to the care of animals, to the care of pets.
We want the dogs to feel like it's home. Any anxieties, we want to try and ease that if we can. Any extra care, we will put in the work to get that done.
When you have individuals that have an education in the pet industry and have a passion, it's just a real recipe for great success. One of the biggest compliments we get at our locations is how it smells so amazing. It doesn't even smell like there's dogs or pets in the building. We wash bedding, we hose out the floors every single morning of every day of the year and dry it with towels to make it very clean. We do room service to all the pets in the whole location twice a day. And then we have our treat services. We offer scrambled eggs, peanut butter ice cream treats, frozen chicken broth, peanut butter Kongs, peanut butter toast. These are all options you can customize. One thing that a lot of customers have really liked is we put a pool out. It really adds to your pet's experience at Goldenwood. One of the greatest things we have implemented and put in place is our cloud-based software. It enables you to be able to go online, click right on Book a Stay, put all your information in. It also creates consistency in knowing the tendencies of your dog, understanding the details of medications and the importance of giving to them in a timely manner. Each time you get an extra service with us, whether it's a treat service or a play service, we include a free photo with that. We send that to all our customers via text message.
Dogs make sense. Pets make sense. When you understand dogs, when you actually start to listen with not just your ears, you can communicate.
we're striving to a golden standard and the highest standard in the pet industry and the pet care industry. Our customers can just know that when you're gone, we got you. We got everything covered. So there you go. That is what the pet world is all about, right there. So to bring you up to speed, then. So recently, I actually sold out of all the campgrounds. John and Benji actually bought me out of the campgrounds, and then I bought majority share of all the kennels. So we recently did that. So obviously, that's a big question of why would I do that. So one of the big things we've found. So I love studying systems, and we'll kind of get into that here. But one thing I found is I feel like it's a very simple business model. So in other words, it's repeatable what we do, the way we take care of the pets. I feel like it's very easy to systematize it. The other thing we've noticed is we've constantly just kind of pushed the limit of what we can charge pricing-wise. And to give you an idea, when we bought the place 4 years ago, she was charging $27 a night per dog to stay at the kennel, and we're currently at 42. And there's a lot of kennels around that are even higher than that, and we're constantly kind of seeing where that threshold is and how high we can push that. So it's definitely, with seeing all the different stuff going on, it's in a weird way, it's almost been easy to increase prices, and we get if we're doing a really great job communicating with our customers really well, making them feel like their pet's really well taken care of, it's actually almost easy to get a really good rate for what you're doing, if you're doing a great job. This is just a few stats about the pet boarding business. So 23 million American households, or nearly 1 in 5, adopted a pet during the pandemic, according to the American Society of Prevention of Cruelty to Animals. 4 to 5% annual growth rate over the past 20 years, and it's expected to grow at a lucrative compound annual growth rate of 8.3% from 2023 to 2030. So this is kind of also kind of going along with answering the question of why I kind of have focused on the pet industry at the moment. What I challenge myself often is kind of telling my message is, we're in the people business, not the pet business. And so what I like to challenge is kind of, you talk to someone and you say, hey, what do you do for a living? I'm a milk truck driver. I drive truck. Pretty simple. And I would like, I like to challenge that and say, how do you serve people? What are you actually doing on the people side? And this is the part where, you'll see our slogan and stuff then, where we are so much more focused on what we're doing for people in the pet industry than what we're doing for the dogs. An example I like to give often is, often people are worried, they go to Florida for 2 weeks and they're wondering how their dog's doing. Is he scared in the kennel? How's he doing with the other dogs? All these questions, so they'll call in. And so they're very concerned. So I'll get into our motto here, but it's eliminating worry for humans is actually what we're doing. And the example I like to give is, you could have, when a customer's worried, right, you could have the best veterinarian in the world working in the back with the dogs, right? But you could have a secretary up front in your business that is not treating your customers very well and is very disrespectful on the phone, right? And they're going to feel, as far as how you feel on the customer side, I feel like you're going to feel like your dog's not safe and not well taken care of. And so if you flip that in reverse, you can do a decent job taking care of the dogs and do an incredible job focusing on your staff and your people and developing people on the front end of communicating with your customers. So that's kind of what I'm getting at here with just the viewpoint of what we are actually doing in our day-to-day. So what are you actually doing at work each day? You might have some roofers here and you say, I'm a roofer, I nail on shingles. Well, I'd say, how are you actually serving people nailing on shingles? And I'd say you're actually preserving valuable assets. We recently replaced some roofs on a bunch of our buildings, and I would say that's what you're doing for me if I'm hiring you as a roofer. And I would challenge you to say, how how can we communicate that to our customers of, hey, do you have any assets that need preserved, because we can help you take really good care of them by providing a roof for you, right? An investor would say, hey, I lend money. Maybe you're actually multiplying capital for other people. A good example is a realtor. So we are taking care of dogs. Are we taking care of dogs or people? So our slogan, which actually we found through creating that video, I actually totally randomly said that without even realizing it. And Austin here actually caught it on the video and said, that is perfect. And so that kind of became our slogan, you're gone, we got you. Communicating to our customers of, hey, go wherever you got to go, we got you taken care of. And our internal mission statement, which is huge and which we drive everything off of what we do, is we eliminate worry for humans. So someone's worried, I got my 3 dogs, I've never left them before, my grandma passed away, she lives in Texas and I got to leave. What do I do with the dogs? My whole family's gone, usually my brother watches the dog. So our job and our girls' job when they're answering that phone is, how do you eliminate worry for humans? How do you make them feel comfortable leaving their dogs behind? And then how do we connect that the rest of the time? How do we connect that while they're gone with sending them pictures, giving them calls to update them on how their dog's doing and stuff like that? So again, just totally focusing on the human side of things here. And then with that, I kind of want to get into, how do you build systems so you can focus on your people? So I believe using a system that you create is working in your business, and I believe creating the actual system is working on your business. Many of you have probably heard some of that before. So I actually got some live examples, because I've heard lots of people say systems, and you look at other people's businesses and say, wow, that thing just seems like it's running really good, and mine's just not running like that. And the books I've read, I just kind of try to take that info, write down notes and stuff, and this is actually a checklist for my 11-year-old son, Mason. And so what we've realized, my wife and I have 8 children. Our oldest is 13, our youngest is 2. And we have a very busy household. And we try to figure out ways, just like in a business, how can we make this more efficient? How can we, make things happen in more timely and more organized? And so this is what I created for Mason. And the blacked out areas are the spaces where those are the days he doesn't have to do that task, but they're homeschooled. You can see that we got the schooling on there and everything. And what we found, so I have more examples of how we implement this in our business as well. But what's so incredible about a system is, when we talk to our kids about getting the things done, we don't have to remember them all, right? So a lot of you that have families, you're running around the house and you're like, hey, did you do this? Did you do the wash? Did you feed the dog? Did you empty the dishwasher? And you're trying to remember all this stuff and juggle all these things. Well, we thought of this idea of, hey, what if we made a system, and this is what we call the kids' checklist, and each day we're going to say, did you do your checklist? What else do I got to do, Mom? Where's your checklist? Did you get the checklist done? And we've been able to get our kids in a rhythm of this, and it's been absolutely incredible, where I feel like they can be satisfied knowing that they've reached the result or they know where the end is, where like, hey, I did what I was supposed to do now I can kind of have my freedom to do what I want because I got the list done. And at the same time, we know that we're not going to forget anything and that we could just add it on here you know, if there was another task or as their ages change and stuff. And this has been absolutely phenomenal in just changing the way our house operates. This is a simple checklist we created for leaving the house. So we often leave the house to go to the mountains and go places, and there was, you know, you always forget 5 things. And you forget to turn the lights out, and you forget all the different things you have to do. So this is, we use this right now today. So we go out, we ask the kennel staff to take care of the farm animals, take the pets to the kennel, we make sure the lights are off in the house. We turn on our outside floodlights when we get home in a couple days, you know, in the dark, the lights on. We lock the front door, lock the garage, adjust the thermostat. We have them there fog the house, you know, for bugs if needed. We get Dramamine for the kids if we're going on a long trip. And these are all just these reminders, you know, so we literally have our kids running around the house, packing the vehicle, and they initial the initial column and then write what time they completed it. So now you don't have a second kid running around trying to do the same thing. So now there's 10 of us, we're all running around trying to get things done. And we're doing it extremely efficiently because, hey, did you initial it? And then you write what time you got it completed. And so it's just a simple system, and I think sometimes we can talk about business systems and things, and it can sound complicated. And I really believe it can be this simple, you know? And it's always been my dream to figure out how can I have a business run without me there, right? And we've used, I'll show you another example here of, so this is our actual, as of 10/28, this is at our Chambersburg kennel, this is our exact checklist right here. And so we spent 4 years literally trying to figure out the order of importance of this list. And, you know, should it be the 4th one down, the 3rd one down? Where does it fit? And this is what has enabled us to run multiple locations, a simple paper like this, where we can bring in new staff, and you can see all the different initials there of different staff. So you could have 5 or 6 people kind of running around trying to get something done, and you're not doing it twice. You're not having to go ask the person, hey, did you get that done? And it's amazing how efficient it can make it run. So what you do is, so the first thing is leaf blow the driveway if needed, turn on the outside light, clean cobwebs out around the outside of the front door. You know, so those are small things that in a typical business can easily get missed, right? Those small details. And, you know, I fully expect every morning, especially now with all leaves falling, you know, before we open, you know, the driveway's perfectly clear, you know, because right first thing in the morning, they leaf blow the entire driveway for the customers, you know, and it's just a very small detail, but works out amazing. So he would have came in at 6, Grant would have came in at 6:45 in the morning and started, and 6:55 he finished blowing the driveway off right there. And so it always kind of it also creates tracking, which some of you guys don't know if you like to track stuff in your business, how long it took, which person did it, you know, all that. So we actually save these for tracking for efficiency as well. So there's just a simple example of things that have just changed our business for sure. Here's some more ideas for you guys. We use calendar reminders, so Google Calendar. We use all the time, so it can be simple stuff like you do once a year. So it signifies anyone can go in there. Yellow is be careful. We don't totally trust that dog, but they're not like super mean. And then we have red is don't go in there because we board a lot of the local canines and stuff like that. So you can't go in there because they will attack you. So red is do not go in there. So simple things like that can definitely, I mean, I would say just has transformed our business big time. So that'd be the colors representing certain things. And then one thing I believe is huge is always value the system over the cost and convenience. So what I mean by that is, so a real simple thing, we use the exact same printer at every single kennel location. And the reason we do that, I don't care, after we probably bought 10 of them, I don't really care how much they cost or think about it anymore, and we're going to buy that same one every time. Because the amount of saving that creates for us to, troubleshoot, right? So now you could call one of the other girls and say, hey, this app isn't working. I can't scan these customers' documents. Well, now everyone can kind of help each other. Where if we were saying, hey, where's the cheapest printer? Where's the best deal on a printer? Now we have 8 printers and no one knows how to use any of them, right? So it's a very simple concept, but those simple things of valuing the system over the convenience has been just massive for us. I mean, even in like ordering stuff, we have a lady that orders all her stuff off Amazon to be delivered. She's ordering the same printer ink, right? She's not researching like, oh, of the 8 printers we have, which one do you have, Mary? Which ink do we need today, right? So that's just been huge. I'm not sure, some of you may be familiar with Michael Gerber. Systems permit ordinary people to achieve extraordinary results predictably. So that is just massive, absolutely massive, what that can do. So basically, what that means is, just like I showed you that checklist, I feel like I could take just about anybody. I mean, I could take my 13-year-old son, and I could train him how to run our kennel probably within a week. Because I'd say, look, follow the checklist, follow the checklist, follow the checklist. You're not going to see me walking around explaining the basic task to him, but I'm not going to remind him, like, hey, did you take the trash out? Did you leaf blow the driveway this morning? Did you turn that light on? I'm going to say, use the checklist, use the checklist, use the checklist. He's going to say, what else? I'm going to say, what's next on the checklist? Just kind of becoming dependent on your systems. And then this is kind of where just a huge game changer for me is kind of like I was sharing there at the beginning of my story, how I really felt like my thought process was, I'm going to buy so many apartments, so hopefully one day I can do whatever I want and not have to deal with people anymore. And I feel like that was very limited thinking. And I realized that it wasn't that my time freedom was not connected to a specific asset class. For so long, like you heard with my story, I really felt like it's apartments. Like all I gotta do is get apartments. But the reality is there's bad apartments to buy and there's good apartments to buy. What do the numbers say? What area are they in? What's the vacancy rate? There's a lot of variables there. And the reality is if you get really good at buying or finding these certain assets, I feel like eventually you're going to get to the point where you're managing the person who's managing the asset. If that makes sense. So you're no longer actually the property manager, right, on site, but you might be managing the property manager who's overseeing your property. And if you get really good at it, you might buy 10 apartment complexes. Well, now you might have 10 property management companies that you need to oversee. And that's where I say you're in the people business. Because now it's a real shift from your average small business because we're dealing with 100% of people. We're not actually taking care of apartments anymore. And so what really changed it for me was I really believe my time freedom is directly connected to my ability to lead, delegate, and develop others. I need to master the people business, not the apartment business. And so I really, so many of us look at today's workforce and say it's so hard to hire people, so hard to keep people, but very few of us look at it and say maybe I'm the problem. Maybe I need to get better at learning how to communicate and be able to keep people. Maybe they need a better boss, right? And that's where I've just really switched my focus over the last year or two to the people side of things and how can I focus on growing and helping people. So like Daryl said there from the beginning, I just love this. Work harder on yourself than you do on your job, Jim Rohn. So if none of you have ever heard of Jim Rohn or listened to any of his stuff, he's changed my life forever. You can look him up on YouTube. He's actually no longer living, but he has a few decent books, but I think YouTube has been, anything on YouTube by him is just absolutely amazing. And to describe what I mean by this, we can work really, I can work really hard in the dog business, going out and taking care of dogs, taking care of dogs, taking care of dogs, or I can read books on how to grow my staff and lead my people better, right? So and then I'll finish here with, we can jump into some Q&A then, but I'll finish here just with a really cool story as far as the people business. This is my wife on the left and my youngest son, Chase, and then in the middle is Lexi. And we had closing at our office on a 2-unit for her. We hired her about 3 years ago, and we questioned if we should hire her, put it that way. We were really, really questioning if we should even hire her at all. Now she's one of our best employees. She reads every day. She's really developed herself. She was in a really bad relationship. She got out of that. She totally recommitted her life to the Lord, got baptized. My wife and I were there for that. It was just so powerful. And I just have to say, if there's one thing that makes business feel worthwhile, it's this people side. If there's one thing I want to be known for, it's not owning a whole lot of dog kennels, but it's changing a whole lot of lives and helping a lot of people like Lexi. So she's actually, we helped her close on a 2-unit. She's living in one, renting the other one. And she's just really being able to make some amazing life choices and life changes. And we're just really excited for her life and where she's headed. And if my wife and I feel like we have a simple calling, it's helping other people, not just going out and trying to do dog businesses, but how can we help every single person, that works for us and help their life get better. So we can jump to some Q&A here, but if you want my phone number, contact information, there's a QR code up there for you guys. I'd be happy to email you back or text you back and answer any questions you have. But I'm open to any questions you have. Does that concept seem crazy?
So thank you for that. First of all, I was curious about your comment you made about selling your part of the campgrounds. It seemed to me like Benji would be a hard guy to let go of. What was I missing?
Great question. Great question. So I did not let go. I did not let go of Benji, and I wish I was in business with him today. We do own some parts of stuff together still, but I think, he had a lot of family there. It's definitely like a distance thing for sure, and he has just really excelled in running the campgrounds and learning how they operate. And I kind of learned this is how the kennels operate, and I feel like it was actually a very healthy thing, more so because now there's weight on his shoulders that's never been there before. And he's always told me, he kind of came alongside me for the ride, and now it's like he's got to look in the mirror and say, "Can you do it?" He doesn't have me there anymore, and if there's any person I think that can do it, it's Benji. So he's an awesome guy, but no doubt I miss him, having him on the team. There's no question about it. He's an awesome guy. So.
And then also, what happened to the 48-unit apartment building?
Yes, so I still own that.
Split?
So they actually didn't have any ownership in that. So my wife went out there. Yeah, great question. So what happened to the 48 units? So still own that to this day, and have someone run that for us. But yeah, they never owned any parts of that.
And
so.
How did you go about splitting up the business?
Yeah, great question. How did I go about splitting up the business? So, the four of us were in business together for 4 years, and we pretty well. We had monthly meetings pretty often, like every month, and then we had actually what we call quarterly reviews. So I actually created a list of probably 20 kind of in-depth questions, simple stuff like, hey, what did I do this quarter that really made you mad? And what did you do this quarter that really made you feel like positive and optimistic. And so it was amazing what came out in those conversations, and that actually kind of led us on this journey to separate, just being very honest, you know, with what we were thinking and what we were feeling. And Jon and Benji have grown like crazy in the last 4 years. But as far as how we went about separating them, I mean, just because I felt like we were kind of on top of things each quarter and evaluating everything, and even like the values, like on our personal financial statements of what our properties are worth, we kind of just agreed on values. So it's not like we went out and got appraisals and everything and all that. We were kind of in it together, and we said, hey, we feel like this campground's worth $3 million, right? And we have $2 million of debt, right? And there's $1 million left, and we're in it thirds, you know. Just kind of agreed on values that way is what we did. So, yeah, good question.
I love how you systematize everything. I have a question. If you had to narrow down just to one daily habit that has impacted you the most.
One daily habit that has impacted me the most by far is reading every single day. Yep. So we actually, I heard Jim Rohn say that. I had a friend introduce me to Jim Rohn 11 years ago. And I just started listening to him on YouTube. And he says, you know, your mind is the most fertile soil on earth, and God gave it to you, and God gave it to you for free, right? And you can get everything you see and hear and read is planting into that soil, and whatever you plant is going to grow. Very simple biblical principle. Whatever you plant is going to grow. And I just really took that to heart, even though I failed reading class, hated reading. I don't remember who my reading teacher was, but I'd love to meet her today and tell her that I haven't missed reading for 11 years now, every single day. And that's changed my life.
I don't really like to read.
I would say there's two things that change us. I would say the two primary things that change us is inspiration or desperation. And I would say so many of us live kind of right in that middle ground. And, you know, a lot of us have felt what it feels like to be desperate in our lives. And that causes us to change and do things. But I believe the inspiration side comes a lot from meeting other people and being inspired. But then if you really want to be intentional about it, is what are you reading every day? You know, because you're getting these ideas from other people that maybe are in the same industry as you, or different ideas of how to hire, you know, how to train and develop your staff, different things. And when I learned that from Jim Rohn, I realized that if I was going to do it every day and never miss a day, I didn't trust myself to hold myself accountable. It's kind of like if I tell you tonight I'm going to do 100 push-ups every night before I go to bed for an entire year, the chance of me doing that is very, very small. But now if I come to you, Daryl, and I say, I'm going to do this every night, and I'm going to send you a video and every night of me doing it, and you're going to do it too, and you're going to send me a video of you doing it. Now there's almost a there's.
To pay for my hunting trip, but you don't.
Yeah, exactly. But that accountability is powerful. That accountability is so powerful. Now we probably went up 90%. Our success rate is probably going to be 90%, because we're essentially using our pride against each other of like, I'm not going to mess up. Like, we're going to do this. And so I went with that concept in mind. I went to a friend that introduced me to Jim Rohn, and I said, we need to figure out a way to do this. So we started off with reading 10 minutes every day. And we wanted to start small, because the idea was never miss a day, never miss a day. It's all about consistency. We eat every day. Jim Rohn says miss a meal, but never miss your 30 minutes of reading. And I took that very serious and said, I got to figure out a way to do this. So we started off with 10 minutes. Today we're at 25 minutes minimum. We have 20-some guys in our group, and it's very simple. You know, we have a messenger group. Every Sunday we message how many days, and we actually have exercise involved as well. So what your average reading time was, how many days you read, and then you have to exercise 25 days out of the month. And we have a group about 20 of us that message every single Sunday, and we started it 11 years ago. And I'll never forget going elk hunting with Jon and Benji the first time I went, probably 6-8 years ago, and I was the only guy with a book on the trip. There's probably about 8 of us, and I was the only guy, and we're out there in the wilderness in the middle of nowhere. I remember thinking to myself, the most important thing I'm doing here is reading this book, because I'm going to read this book and I'm going to get smarter. And I'm not only thinking and we were all excited thinking, I can't wait to shoot that elk and find that, we're blowing elk calls out on the highway and just, getting all excited. And I remember thinking to myself, I'm reading this book because I want to be able to hunt wherever I want in the world, whenever I want in the world, right? Because I want to learn these concepts and become smarter at business. I don't want to just be excited about hunting this one elk this one year. And I went back 3 years later, and it was 8 of us, and every single person had a book and was reading. And it's just changed our lives forever, and I just reading every day. And the other thing is just prioritizing the reading, realizing it's not like it's easy for me today, but realizing that we can create our schedules. It's so easy to just assume like, hey, we get up as early as we can, we go out and we build houses, and then we come home and we're exhausted, we eat supper and we don't feel like doing anything else, and we'll get some reading if we can, and I've lived that lifestyle for so long, and what I've realized is, hey, why can't we change that, And so I actually typically don't like to do a whole lot before 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning. So I typically wake up, I read, I have breakfast with my family, I do the important stuff first in my life, and now the rest that I do today is a bonus. And that reading has just changed my life. And I've realized a big difference too, reading in the morning like that, I feel like I retain a lot more. My mind is fresh, I'm not wore out from the day, I feel like I retain a lot more of it as well. Yes?
I'm curious, what book made it out into the Elkwoods?
What book?
What was the one book that you took out there?
Oh, that is a good question. Definitely Rich Dad, Poor Dad made it out there by Kiyosaki. And The Richest Man in Babylon made it out there by George Clayson. Yeah, they definitely made it out. Because they were smaller ones that weren't so heavy in the backpack. Yes, sir.
Wait, so I really like that you use systems, and I'm going to, a lot of times they're nags from our wives. We have to do this, we have to do that. So what you're using are systems. You need a good system. It's a nag. So I just gave you a brand. You can call them nags.
Oh, nice. There you go. There you go.
Also, you said books to read. I would read Unreasonable Hospitality by Will Guidara. Excellent book.
Okay. Awesome.
Jake hooked me up with that.
Okay. Awesome. Yes.
How soon did you start with systems? I know I should, but I keep thinking I don't care for it and I don't get it done. Listening to you, I have to get this done. Was it inspiration or desperation that started you?
I would say desperation. So we actually bought 3 kennels in a matter of 3 weeks. 2 were out towards the Pittsburgh airport, and 1 was down in Oxford, Maryland. And we were flying back and forth in a friend's plane because we were so desperate to get there fast and figure this out, how to run these things. And my wife at the time, I think was 6 months pregnant. We had 6 children at the time. And we're just taking our family with us, trying to figure out how to run these things. And I think a lot of it probably came more so out of desperation as far as the implementation of it. Because we're saying, okay, we got to leave here. When you get in a situation where you're like, I got to leave here and I got to go 7 hours away. So how is this girl we just hired off of Indeed 3 days ago going to run this thing, right? But as we know, like with the systems at McDonald's and Sheetz and Burger King, and what they do good is not make burgers. We all know that, but their systems are incredible. That's what keeps them going and makes them operate well, right? So when you go to Sheetz to the MTO, the owner's not there, right? It's their systems that they have, and so that's what kind of I feel like I definitely got there from desperation, probably forcing me to do it. But then when I seen the results, I'm like, this is great. Like this is mind blowing, right? Because the example I like to give often is, so you can just if I just made up a story and I'm like, okay, go around this corner, go down to the 5th door on the left, grab the green trash can, take it down to the parking lot, 18 spaces down, turn right, go to the red car, turn left. I start giving you these complicated instructions, right? And then while you're down there, get the leaf blower and bring it back and put it in the go 8 doors down and put it on the right side, you know, back behind the blue trash can. So now go try to do that. Right? So that's business, though, if you think about it, right? There's these moving parts, and we're like, hey, go do this, go do this. And it's amazing how many of those are repeatable, right? So we'll have that same thing happen on Monday and Friday, and you're trying to tell the guy who works for you those instructions. So it's amazing when you can go to something. I can bring that checklist back up here. So it's amazing when you can have something this simple, and how if I wrote this instruction I just told you, right, and I put it down on this list with like 8 items, almost every person in this room will get it done exactly 100% right the first time. First time and faster, if I just took the time to write it out like this. You know, so this isn't some complicated computer software. This isn't, you know, you can go in Word and just create a simple document like this. I mean, you could write it out by hand on a blank sheet of paper and make copies of it, right? It's not like it's, you know, because I've always looked at other businesses and said, wow, like you have all these systems, it's so complicated, and it seemed overwhelming. And this is how I've been able to just kind of break it down and make it like, hey, it can be simple. You know.
You have rings,
Ring cameras.
yeah, like the ring cameras.
Yeah, we do use those some.
And then they
We don't feed them to the customer. No, we don't. No, at this point we don't do anything with that. We might eventually, but that's a little touchy as far as like you're saying allowing people to log in and see the
just adding to the experience
Yep,
standpoint for the customer.
sure.
Because people, especially if they're from New York or New Jersey, they love their dogs better than they love their kids a lot of times.
It's wild out there. I tell you what, it's wild. That's for sure. Yes.
You mentioned your quarterly, essentially you systemized what annoys you with your business partners.
Yes. Yep.
What items, or would you share that? I was just thinking that's a great thing that I should do with my employees.
Yeah.
For better
Yeah.
retention.
If you want to take down my contact information, I'd be happy to send it to you. Yep. I have a lot of. There's probably 30 questions I have on there. Yeah. Yeah, I just love systems like that because we just go through my latest system I'm working on, I actually call it death checklist. So I'm actually working at, you know, something that's hard for a lot of people to talk about is like, you know, your will and your plan for dying and all this. And I think about, hey, when my parents pass away, I've never had a close family member myself pass away. What am I going to do? I have no idea. So if my mom or dad died tomorrow, and I'm being honest, and like, I don't know what their will says. I don't know if I'm the executor of it. Like I wouldn't know the first step. So I've actually been going around the funeral homes and kind of seeing if they have checklists and stuff, and then I'm going to actually create probably like a 60 or 70 question document, and I'm going to have it in order, specific order, right? So now I could create this for myself. I could hand this to my wife, and it'd be like, look, if you died tomorrow, here's step 1. Here's step 2. Here's where this is, you know. So I love it. But imagine, it seems like something so simple, but imagine the stress that can remove from your spouse or something if that was to happen. Obviously, we're not expecting that to happen, but at some point we're all going to die. We just don't know when, right? And to have a plan is incredible. You know, it can be something so simple like this, you know, just in order, you know, what to do and make everyone confident. Again, like kind of hit all those points right in order and 100% accurate. Yeah. Yeah, you're welcome.
Whenever you look at an apartment building to buy, do you buy on caps? Do you buy on how much each unit is going to make, like a percentage or a number? How do you kind of break down the deals for apartments specifically?
Yeah, okay, so how would I go about buying apartments, and how would I calculate whether it's a good deal or not, basically? Yeah. So, yeah, primarily, well, cap rate's going to give your value because that's where the bank is going to use the cap rate to appraise the property to say what the value is. But the upside would be In other words, it's huge to know the market rents, where they're at, and then where they could be based on the market. So it's actually one of the most valuable ways as far as a larger apartment complex, like the 86 unit that we own, is we would look at, like the one we bought 2 years ago, the average rents were $980 a month. And we knew that market rent was more like $1,200, $1,300 a month. So now we're calculating that, saying if we can keep the expenses the same, then what would that cap rate spell out in value, right? So that's going to be your equity increase. What would that spell out as far as the value for your investors and your exit strategy over here? So definitely cash flow of what we have left over, but you can't only go off of that, because that one we bought was a very good deal just because the rents were low and we knew there was an upside. So if I was only looking at cash flow, I would have thought that was a bad deal if I was only looking at that cash flow side. Yep. Does that answer your question? Yeah.
Somebody have one more question for Jon? You cover everything? I got a couple yet, Jon. So how many facilities do you have right now? How many boarding facilities?
So right now we own 4, and then we also own a warehouse just off 81 we bought a year and a half ago, that are one of our main competitors leases the building, and I actually pursued her looking to buy her business out, and she said, well, I don't own the building. I'll consider selling my business to you, but I don't own the building. So I said, well, who's your landlord? Well, I own the building and she pays me rent now. So she has a year and a half left on her lease, and that's a 21,500 square foot warehouse, and we're turning that into kind of like an elite pet resort with a pool in it and all kinds of crazy stuff in 2025. So we have that. We're kind of doing planning and stuff for that now. So we have 4, and then we have that building that's underway, and then we're closing on 2 on December 12th. We close on 2 more coming up here. One down in Hagerstown and one over towards Gettysburg.
So how many, these are probably all different sizes, but on average, how many rooms, how many pets in each facility?
Yeah, so our Chambersburg location that I was showing you there at the beginning of the slide, that building, I can go back to it here, how many, so that building there has 60 runs, we call it runs, 30 per side. But then we'll actually put, if customers have their dogs crate trained, we'll actually put, in the busy season, we'll actually put crates down the middle of the aisles and stuff, pack this place full. So we've had as many as 110 dogs overnight in that building.
Wow.
Yeah.
Anybody doing the math? $42 a dog?
Yeah. You got it. You got it. You can do the math, yep.
What's your normal occupancy?
Normal occupancy. So we make all our money between Memorial Day and Labor Day.
Oh, wow.
Yep, we make 75% of our income in those 15 weeks.
Really?
Yes. So it is somewhat of a seasonal business.
Gotcha.
Yes. Yep. Every time the phone rings between Memorial Day and Labor Day, that customer is going to book with us and is going to come to the facility. They're not. I mean, they might be shopping a little bit, but they're on high demand. And I would wish I had 2 buildings like that. Yeah. So it's finding that it's definitely hard to kind of find that balance of, do we spend the money to put up a new building, knowing in the winter it's not going to be, you're not going to have anyone in it.
Bonus period between Christmas, or is that?
Pretty much all the holidays we're just packed. We'd have all the holidays would be pretty much 100% full at all our locations. Okay. Yeah.
But like on like middle of, I don't know, January, February, are you like what, 20% or 40%?
Yeah, so I would say we'd be 25% full. Yep, we do zones. So we have, like, this building's broke up in 4 zones. So we'd have like one zone full, like anywhere from, that'd be anywhere from like 15 to 20 dogs. Yeah, so you'd come in then and you'd say like, wow, how do you even afford to pay for this place having just this few dogs in here?
And you couldn't if it'd be that way year round, probably.
Correct. Yep.
How do you manage the staff the fluctuation with the
I'm
staff.
still trying to figure that out.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say I got that nailed down. I mean, it's just like any seasonal business. It's not easy to do.
Yeah.
That's for sure. It's
Yeah.
not easy to do.
Yeah.
I mean, one thing we're going to be doing this year is December 12th, we close on 2 more locations. So we're going to actually have our staff travel from the other locations to come help instead of hiring all this new staff since we're doing it through the winter.
Gotcha.
So that's one strategy we're going to use. But yeah, we're constantly trying to balance that out. That is a very, very, very hard thing to do for sure.
How far away are people traveling to you?
Customers, you're referring to customers? So the furthest someone will go is, I mean, it'd be very few, but we'd have people travel as far as an hour, I would say. But I would say most of your customers are a half hour or less. Most of them would be local and a half hour or less as far as distance. The only way would be is if there's not any good kennels around and you're extraordinary, and they find out about you, they might travel that distance. Yeah. But yeah, I would say pretty much everyone's pretty well local. Yeah. To give you an idea about how much poop we pick up in a building like that, we have about almost 15,000 dog stays per year in a building like that. And if a dog pooped twice, you'd pick up 30,000 piles of poop. So we pick up a lot of poop.
It's not a stat I was expecting to get, but that's good.
I love my metrics.
One final question for you. So you obviously read a lot of books.
Yes.
And I know it's hard to put them in order of like these are the top 5, top 10, whatever.
Yes.
If you had to give us a top 3, top 5 books that you would recommend everybody's got to read, what are they?
Everybody's got to read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, The Millionaire Real Estate Investor by Gary Keller, Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss, Negotiating as if your life depended on it. And I just finished 2 employee books. So the one is Never Lose, I'd have to look them up and send them to you. It's Never Lose Another Employee Again, and the other one is Keeping Your Employees on Fire at Work. Have been amazing. So those have really helped me, just different concepts of kind of flips the coin on you and says, instead of saying, why is it so hard to hire? Why are people don't want to work, right? And kind of flips the coin and says, maybe I should look at myself as the boss and say, maybe I'm not a good boss. Maybe I'm not communicating well. Maybe I don't understand the desires they have, right? And kind of really helps you look, in the mirror and say, how can I be a better boss to actually attract good staff versus blaming it on them, right? How can I become better?
Very good.
So.
How about a big hand for John?
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Fascinating stuff for sure. Well, hopefully that was some good food for thought. I think some of my top takeaways were your checklist and the reading. I keep going up and down on this reading thing, and I've used pretty much all the excuses out there that many of us use. I don't have time. I mean, I shot that one down a while back, but I still pull it out sometimes.
You guys in that group, we won't let you down.
And looking at my notes here. Yeah, a lot of good tidbits there. So thank you very much. So that's going to wrap it up for tonight. I think there's anything else. A quick announcement for next month's meeting. We're going to dive back into the topic of Airbnbs that everybody still seems to love. It's going to be broader than that, but it's going to have a lot to do with Airbnbs. So I'm not exactly sure what it'll look like, but probably do a panel. What we're planning on doing is a panel. A panel discussion with 2 different couples that are full-time in real estate. So most of you guys probably have know Dave and Rachel Ash. Where are you at, Dave? There you are, Dave. So they're out in Perry County, own and manage a number of large Airbnbs, also started managing for other people some as well. I don't even know if I was supposed to say that, but I just did, Dave. I think they're pretty selective. They're not looking to get to 100 properties by the end of the year, I don't think, but they did start to manage a few for other people. So we're going to have them and also Mike Lapp sitting right beside Dave there, Mike and Kayla. Mike used to work for JM Lapp. His wife Kayla manages a bunch of Airbnbs more locally. So I thought, how about we pull these two couples together and have a good old panel discussion and ask a bunch of Airbnb related questions and try to figure out if Airbnb is still a good investment or what we need to do to make it good, or I don't know. There's still a lot of questions. The industry has changed a lot, and I think it'll be a good conversation. So I believe that'll wrap it up for now. Thank you again for sharing, John, and Justin, thanks for being here. Mentioned before, but Justin will be in the back to take your questions about the EITC program. I'll also try to gather their information and shoot it out in the email tomorrow if that's okay. So if you want to reach out to them